Welcome back to Sportonomics. Today, we're sitting down with Mark Franek. See, Mark is a lifelong soccer player and lover of the sport who went from picking it up as a teenager in York, Pennsylvania to playing semi-pro in Iceland, and has since written a book called American Soccer Nation, a 150-year history of how soccer got to where it is today in the United States. With the World Cup coming to North America this summer, the timing for this conversation couldn't be better. In this episode, Mark takes us through the full arc of American soccer, why it's failed 3 times before MLS came along, how the league's unique structure compares to the rest of the world, and what it's actually going to take for the US to become a true soccer nation. Enjoy the conversation. Mark, I'm always curious how Americans specifically find themselves getting into soccer, especially understanding it's not quite yet a major force sport here. So for those listening, what is your background with the sport and how did you get into it?
Sure, I'm quite old now. I'm in my 50s, so we're going to have to go back into the Rubik's Cube and breakdancing era to talk.
Whoa, take
To
me there.
Yeah, so back in the mid 80s or early 80s, my parents got me into soccer after I had suffered probably what they did not know but know now to be several concussions. And thus, I got into soccer late in my early teens, which makes me a little bit different than most of the soccer crazy people that I find myself around. So I was late to the sport of soccer. Neither my dad nor mom played it, but I found myself at the ripe old age of 13 trying to form my specific soccer DNA, which is long past the time when you learn how to actually be technical with the ball. So I'm a product of the mid 80s in York, Pennsylvania, which is not a hot spot of any sport, let alone soccer.
So because you played soccer, does that automatically make you a fan of the sport? And I'm curious, especially in the 1980s, like what that would even look like to be a fan of soccer.
Yeah, that's a good question. So, my journey perhaps is somewhat unique in that I fell in love with it immediately, from coming from outside the sport. Never knew anybody. There was nothing you could watch in the mid '80s. The NASL had died in glorious death in 1984, so there was nowhere on TV that a young man in York, Pennsylvania could watch it unless you happened to catch some soccer made in Germany show on PBS, but then you'd have to stand up and move the rabbit ears, the antenna to get it to come in pretty clearly. But yeah, when I fall in love with it, I never went back. I got pretty good at it. I was athletic. I was aggressive. I went to some camps. I started getting noticed, and at that time, you could play soccer in college, if you will, without having a good decade under your belt of playing. And then I played in a Division I school briefly, and then followed up with that with a mini career in Iceland of all places, where I continued to play. And I've played into adulthood long after most of my peers have retired from the sport. I'm still playing, and yeah, it's been glorious for me. And for the soccer people, it's perhaps a lot similar stories. People who get into the sport, find it, get old, marry, have kids, and now their kids don't have any choice but to get into the sport. That's my journey.
Do you still play today?
I do. I have a game tonight at 9 o'clock, right
Wow.
up here. And my son, who's a Philadelphia Union player, he's very fortunate to be a part of this high-end academy. He's now been a little bit released, so he can come play with me. And I'm telling you guys, there's nothing more fun than playing a sport that you love. When I'm nearing literal retirement, I don't think I can play into my 60s or 70s, but to watch my son now, an up-and-coming teenager, play with full adults for an hour, I mean, there's nothing more fun than that.
I don't know. You take that day by day, and I could see a world where you're continuing to play 20 years from now. There's some great stories here in Minnesota of some beer league hockey players that have been playing since the 1930s and 40s as they get into their 80s and 90s.
Do they still have legs and
They
knees?
still have legs, and the thing with hockey, though, they're just gliding a little bit more than skating,
Right.
so there's not as much movement involved, but they still have to put on all the gear and do all that, so
Yeah,
I think there's
inertia,
I
right?
think
You're
there's still
pushing
hope. Maybe
around.
you could
Yeah,
transition to being a goalie,
yeah,
Sure.
right, true.
Mark,
so
Mark, you said your son plays in an MLS or for an MLS Academy or has been in that
Yeah,
system?
recall for the listeners, there's 30 MLS clubs now, so the soccer tent has expanded now to rival literally the other 4 North American professional sports. We've got 30, maybe room for 1 or 2 more, we'll see. And my son goes to the high school here in Philadelphia that is embedded completely within the Philadelphia Union franchise. The name of the high school is called YSC Academy, and it pumps out 1 to 3 professional athletes every year, and then the rest of the boys, 17 or 18 of them, will go on to colleges, many wonderful colleges and often on a full ride. So it's a win-win scenario. And my son, I mean, seriously, I cannot believe how lucky my son and the boys that are here. I mean, if they got run over by a SEPTA bus, SEPTA is the Philadelphia bus company. Like, it's the joke is, and that's a terrible metaphor. We're going to use it anyway. If you got run over by a bus and you're 13 and you were a soccer person, you would want to come right back to where they currently are because they live glorious days as teenagers, fully immersed in the soccer experience.
That is
Okay,
awesome.
that's interesting. So you mentioned you went to Iceland to play. I'm curious, as you kind of probably get to understand what the global perspective of American soccer is at the time. What are you hearing? What are people saying about American soccer once you leave the borders?
Well, are you talking about when I went back in the day, or are you talking about now as in terms of American
Back
soccer?
in the day, I'm asking first, but I'm curious how that's changed.
Right. So briefly, started going to Iceland in my early 20s when I was teaching, and we're talking about good 30 years ago now. So we're pre MLS or right when the Major League Soccer got started in North America in 1996. I started going to Iceland in 1992 when I wasn't teaching because they had 3 months off. And oh my gosh, you can go to an island country with relatively attractive women with their soy squirrel boots, pumping your gasoline, and come and watch you play on a Friday night, and you don't have papers to grade for 3 months, and then come back to a job in September, please. And you're going to pay for my flight and put me up in a flat. Please. The closest I'll ever get to becoming a professional athlete is playing semi pro ball in Iceland. Now, what did Icelanders think of soccer in America? Nothing, because there was none. Now, listen, we of course hosted the 1994 World Cup. My book gets into it. It's a wonderful story about how the United States earned the right to host the World Cup, and the only thing FIFA, that's the governing body for world football, they required us Yanks, in order to host, we had to promise that we would create a full professional league, which we did eventually in 1996. And now we're into the 31st year of Major League Soccer. But Icelanders didn't care one bit about American soccer. Nowadays, though, gaining respectability, and that's a longer topic. You know, we've really won a full field press in the last 10 years or so. The soccer tent is rapidly expanding.
Yeah. I mean, I think to me, it seems like we are reaching if you look at like a hockey stick growth curve on a chart, like we're on the blade of that hockey stick right now for soccer in North America. I think we'd be foolish to not ask you to take us back all the way to the beginning of soccer in North America and give us a bit of a chronological understanding of how we got to this point today. We dipped into it a little bit with your playing career, but I'm just so fascinated with the history of the sport and how it came over and
Sure.
how we got to where we are now, where there's legitimately large professional clubs and legitimate players that are participating on those teams.
Yeah, Jake, I'm gonna get into it, but I wanna move fast because it's 150 years. But for listeners, many people don't realize that soccer in America has always been here. It never died out. It may have gone dormant, or it may have been, it may have been an ember stage, glowing stage, but it never died out. Let's go way back to the beginning, and I'll try to jump through 150 years worth of history quickly. American soccer, I argue, although historians don't fully agree with me, got started in American universities in the 1860s to 1870s. It was more proto soccer, to be honest, to the historians. It was quasi rugby, quasi soccer, quasi mob football, but it nevertheless had a ball and a goal, and you couldn't run the ball over the line. You had to kick it. It existed Princeton, Harvard, Yale, Columbia, Penn, and mostly white rich boys who were playing it were kind of kicking around in this proto foot soccer, proto gridiron football stage. And then Harvard decided that they wanted to go more towards the rugby route, and that happened in about the 1875, if I'm not mistaken. They 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 sanctified this rule that put American colleges on the road to quote unquote gridiron football. Now, gridiron football did not look like gridiron football in the 1870s, 80s, or 90s. I mean, the forward pass wasn't even sanctified until the 1900s, but it was more like gridiron slash rugby, and it almost killed soccer on the colleges. And soccer was therefore left to be taken up by the immigrants that were coming in largely from Scotland, England, Wales, and to a lesser extent, Germany and Scandinavia, that were filling up the garment industry in the late 1880s, 1890s, turn of the century. A lot of these immigrants were coming over these Northeast factories, and their association football, soccer, started to become more popular, particularly in the towns that were supporting the local mills. And all historians agree on that. Soccer was kept alive in America mostly by immigrants, first generation, second generation immigrants. In the turn of the century, let's just sprint right up to 1920. 1920, although a lot of people don't realize, we had a fully functioning professional soccer league up and down the East Coast, roughly from Philadelphia on up to Newark, New Jersey, Kearny, New Jersey, Brooklyn, New York City, Pawtucket, Rhode Island, the whole way up the corridor to Boston. There was this circuit, 8 to 12 teams that were playing every weekend, and most of the players were being paid a healthy salary. And some of the best players were earning salaries that were rivaling the bottom half of the baseball men, on all the baseball leagues. And for a while there, America was on a tear to become a world leader in football. It was a vibrant league, not talked about, almost forgotten. And guess what happened in the late 20s? People may recall from their history classes that you have the Great Depression in 1929, and that went right to the death or the heart of the immigrant community and the working class communities that were fans that were supporting this league. And it almost died out. And we kind of struggled through World War II, 60s and 70s, dark ages, on up to the late 60s when we have this thing called the NASL. And I hope you'll just give me another minute because promise I'll get up to the modern era. But
Mark, you take as much
yeah,
time as you need. I'm
please,
I'm
you guys don't
I'm
have to cut this, but
no, no, I am thoroughly enjoying this.
so you see where we are. We had a fully functioning league for 10 years. It almost died out. Then, as soon as we got on our feet, World War II started. And the United States, the Yanks made two appearances in the World Cup. The first was in 1930. That was the first World Cup. And the United States actually came in third place in 1930. Who would have thought? Third place out of 13 teams. We lost to Argentina in the semifinal. It was the greatest ever effort we had. Sure, there weren't a ton of the big teams from Europe, but some were there. And why would the United States do so well? Because they had a fully functioning, decade-long milieu of players playing all up and down the East Coast. And we surprised the French. We surprised the Brazilians and the Argentinians. I mean, for goodness sake, we beat Belgium, okay, and we beat Paraguay, and we were there in the semifinals in front of 75,000 screaming Uruguayans and Brazilians back in 1930. Lost. Soccer almost died out with the Great Depression, sprint through World War II. And then there's this other glorious moment for some soccer enthusiasts might remember that we beat England in 1950 World Cup down in Brazil, but we lost the rest of our group games and never made it out of our group. Very few people recognize that the Yanks even went to the World Cup in 1930 and 1950, but we did, and we had some success there. However, going into 1951 through 1990, the United States never qualified for a World Cup. It's basically the dark ages of soccer, and there's
Just
a
for
lot of
for people that don't know, how does a team qualify? Like, how does a country
Mm.
get their team to qualify?
Well, back in those particular days, there would have been qualifying rounds. I'm not going to get into the names of them, but you can't just waltz into the World Cup. You're going to have to play teams in your region. And the name of the region today is called CONCACAF. It sounds like a child coughing after a the whooping cough. It's a stupid acronym. I'm not going to get into what it stands for, but it basically means the Caribbean countries in North America, Canada, us, Mexico, and the Caribbean countries. But you would have to play people in your region in mini tournaments in order to qualify. And the qualification changed every couple iterations, and the number of teams that could go would change. But the point was, we never beat Mexico. They always went, and we almost never got second place. Usually there's a couple teams from our region that go. But we're talking about 50 long years, 40 long years rather, 1950 to 1990, that the United States failed to make it out of their qualifying group from our region. And we did qualify in 1990. 94 we're hosting. I'm sorry, the NASL had died. Get back to that. We had a 16-year run where we're playing a lot of foreigners in our leagues. No Americans are there except the referees. How stupid was that? You got all these owners, and the only Americans that were on the field were the refs for the most part. And it died an inglorious death. Not one NASL team ever did a youth academy. This was never going to work. And then we went into 96 to when the Americans finally got their act together, created a league, a single entity structure with checks and balances that really irritate the purists because you can't go up or down. But here it is 30 years later into the NASL. So I apologize for that 8 to 10 minute run through 150 years history of soccer. It's always been here. It's had a rugged journey, but it's certainly always been here.
I'm curious, Mark, what role FIFA has played, in your opinion, in like the current iteration of football in America as we know it today? Because it's interesting to me that FIFA, everything I know about the process of acquiring a World Cup, they would trust America to host a World Cup in 94. And then you described that the MLS doesn't even kick off until 96. I have some suspicions as to why they might have taken that risk, but I'm curious the role they played to then prop up the MLS, maybe for lack of a better term.
Yeah, FIFA has had almost no role in helping the Yanks do anything, let alone helping us with soccer. FIFA has always considered the United States an ATM. And we are a great eight. We're a big bank. And
Oh, ATM is in like a place to get cash. I thought it was an acronym for something else, not automatic transfer of money or whatever
right,
that is.
ATM. We're a bank. So there's an interesting story about that. I'll be brief. The United States hosted the Olympics in 1984 in Los Angeles. So that was an international tournament that involved soccer as well as, I don't remember, 30, 40 other sports at the time. It's the Olympics. And it was a glorious success. And the Olympics part is also sponsored at that time. FIFA has power over what's going on in the soccer tournament. Well, they were there. The bigwigs from FIFA were there in Los Angeles watching the Yanks put on the best Olympics that had ever happened in terms of money. The United States knows how to put on and host high quality sporting events. And FIFA, the United States, we were in the running. We were in the running to host in 1986, but we lost out and the bid was given to Mexico. And then when we turned around and bid for it again in 1990, FIFA had data now from 1984. Yanks hosted soccer. There was 100 and some thousand people in some of these games at the Rose Bowl. It was glorious. Television broadcasted all over the world. And they said, okay, maybe you don't have a professional league, but you certainly know how to put on a good show. But that was solely or materially because of money. If you have the United States, and then when big multinational corporations come on board, like Adidas at the time, Visa at the time, IBM at the time, it's basically a no-brainer that we're going to permit the Yanks to put on this tournament, even though they don't even have a full professional league. And guess what? The 1994 World Cup was a success, regardless of metric. It made everybody a lot of money and set records for FIFA, and they were happy as a clam in the muck. And if you go back to Tyler's question, well, why are we back here again? Well, it has to do with money. I mean, the FIFA, it doesn't want to do any favors and hasn't done any favors for the Yanks. They're not in the business of doing favors. They're in the business of making money, and books have been written and can be written again about the crazy, fraudulent, immoral things that FIFA has done for over 100 years. Very few people are gung-ho on FIFA. It's rivals Enron in some ways, which is business practices. But they're not going anywhere, and we're stuck with them.
Yeah. It's just not entirely obvious to me, Mark, though, that like we would host a successful World Cup in 1994 and then soccer would take off. Like it seems equally as likely that they could have seen that as a fun flash in the pan, maybe come back 20 years later for the same sort of cash grab. But in the meantime, soccer wouldn't have taken off in the way that it has taken off. So talk us through like what the inflection point was for soccer to become the sport it is today, because it's it's rivaling some of these big four sports
Yeah,
now.
it's been a slow burn. Let's go back to 94. We don't have the World Cup. A lot of young Americans get to see it. They see the glorious game, the beautiful game played where nary a blade of grass is out of place. They see the Brazilians go the whole way to win. The United States make it out of their group. They lose to the Brazilians. The Brazilians eventually win. It's a positive. It's not defense heavy. It's a glorious tournament. And that, according to some people, was a real turning point. It didn't rocket us up into the sky in a glorious, quick fashion, but it set the stage, if you will, for the rebirth of American soccer, that had never died, but it had been smoldering. And that rebirth occurred in 1986. However, the first 5, 8 years of the MLS was not a top bin success. Top bins is a soccer phrase that talks about a glorious goal scored in the cobwebs in the corner of the net. We know we did not get off to a glorious start. The first year, 1986, was certainly well attended, but it took steps down over the next 4 years. Every year it lost money. Every year MLS had to keep paying ESPN the production costs. You're basically paying ESPN and some of the TV people to broadcast our games, and we were losing fans, losing revenue share, and the owners were concerned for the first 5 to 7 years. This has been written about, and it's been known that in the turn of the next century, about in 2002, the MLS owners had to get together and decide, what are we going to do? Are we going to double, quadruple down? I think that's a phrase that Don Garber, which was the commissioner, and used in 2002. We're going to quadruple down, or we're just going to throw in the towel again. And soccer on the United States, don't want to get into it now, had already failed. Professional soccer in America has already failed 3 times: in 84 to 85, 1921 to 1931, and 1968 to 1984. We had professional leagues that started and then failed. So here, we didn't want to fail, but the last 10 years is now where things are picking up steam. And there's lots of reasons for that. There isn't any one reason, but just to understand for the listeners who maybe not follow soccer, it's been a slow burn. And it's only been in the last 10 years that I think people with deep pockets have really seen that there is a market here that is massive. And it doesn't mean that we're going to overtake gridiron football anytime soon. You don't need 330 million people to follow soccer in this country. You need tens of millions, and that is a wonderful market of a lot of money. And it's a monopoly almost, because in the MLS you can't go up, you can't go down. You're in a locked league, which makes us different than most of the other soccer.
The other thing that's interesting about an MLS game, if you go to that and then you go to an NFL game or you go to an NHL game or a Major League Baseball event, even an NBA game, completely different demographic of fans there than you'd see at the other places. I don't know why. I've never put that together, but it is just fascinating. Like there's a completely different set of people that are at the games that are just not being served through that might be being served through an NFL game, but through Major League Baseball or the NHL or basketball through the NBA.
Think that's true. The soccer tent and the soccer people who are interested in soccer and consume soccer and who may show up literally at a stadium to go are more diverse socioeconomically, racially, ethnically than the other sports. That doesn't mean by tremendous margins. It's just a statistical fact. And they are coming from different, and they're also different. This is where the people that have been on your cast before are trying to hammer at. How can you make money when the people who are coming sometimes may not even root for the American national team, right? Because they might show up for the Mexican national team on our soil. So they have different allegiances and they're not all moving in the same stream. But if I get your point, the fan bases that are supporting American soccer and are consuming the MLS are more diverse in terms of certain socioeconomic factors and racial factors than most of the other sports. And there's a long reason for that, because soccer has appealed at different times to different people and has been known, unfortunately, if you will, as an immigrant sport. But certainly, there's some really wonderful things about the diversity of the kinds of people that you're going to see at a game.
Hmm.
But how do you monetize it? That's
That's
tricky.
that is the I guess it's now a multi-billion-dollar question that the MLS is grappling with and their owners are grappling with.
Mark, do you find you see some of these valuations with these MLS clubs? They seem astounding to me, almost unbelievable. I don't know if you've thought much about the skyrocketing value of these clubs in the league as a whole. If you have any thoughts there.
Yeah, so I'm a writer and I'm an English teacher. I'm not a business owner. I have a boss. Her name is Mayman Post. She's my wife. So I give you all my opinions are from an outsider perspective, right? I don't
Perfect.
own a club, but let's just take a look at it. The MLS now has 30 teams. If you come in last place, of which the Union currently is. Last year the Philadelphia Union won the Community Shield last year, which means we're the best team in the overall league before you get the playoffs. And there's an award for that. It's called the Community Shield. So last year we were great. This year we're literally in last place right now. If we stay in last place in 6 months from now, when the league is over, we don't get ousted from the league. Now, this makes our league, MLS, different than the English Premier League, the Italian Serie A, the French league, right? And this is common knowledge. The United States soccer people have 30 teams and they're locked. They're not going up, they're not going down. What some people may not realize is that the ownership groups that have bought in to the league in what's called a single entity structure, they're buying into a league-wide organism, if you will, with rights to operate their own franchise within a certain region with a bunch of revenue sharing deals across all the clubs. But it's not just about the MLS teams. They're also buying into this legal entity called SUM. It's spelled SUM. And SUM is, maybe it's come up in your podcast before, SUM is a media rights company that gobbles up soccer media rights to broadcast mostly North American games that run across many constituents. For example, the Mexican National League, CONCACAF Championship. There's a whole host of other rights that this media group owns. So MLS ownership groups buy in, create their own stadium. They're also sharing in various other revenue streams about media rights deals and also the rights and all the jersey sales and all the other ticket sales. After a certain amount of tickets, the other 29 teams share. So this is a really interesting proposition. Can you imagine all these teams in Europe that have been losing money for over a century, right? And what? You can't go down? You can't get relegated? We're going to share in everybody else's profit? This is an interesting phenomenon
Well, it's
with
it's
money.
it's it's been described through the NFL as socialist capitalism. The the
It's not
the
unique in America.
No, the league structure itself is truly a socialist league structure in that everybody is benefiting from the group as a whole.
What
But
do you think of that, Jake? I mean, you
uh,
guys,
I
you
mean,
talk to a
okay,
lot of
what do I think of it? I think it's created probably one of the largest assets in the sports space the world has ever seen in the NFL and
right.
all of their teams as an extension of it. But if you go, like if you were to try to value the NFL as a league, you'd probably have arguably like the largest sports asset in the world. And then if you strip it apart into all the individual teams, you then have many of the most valuable sports assets in the world all pulled into this single entity, and they're all in bed together too. Like it's not like you can't pull them apart and have one team operate independent from the league and go somewhere else. Just they're not allowed to, and it also wouldn't work.
True. And the NFL people, of course, no one really complains about it because there's only one FL. In the
But
soccer
what is there
world,
to complain about too?
I
Like,
know. Well, here's what there is to complain about, because with the soccer people, there are always going to be people who eschew or know that from their own life in soccer that every other league in the world operates differently. There's relegation, there's promotion,
That's right.
and the idea that a local club from your town in Argentina or Mexico or Ireland or freaking France, just name any other country where they love soccer, the idea that a minnow of a town can eventually acquire assets, work really hard, get lucky, and can get on up to the top league in the country and play against the oil tankers on merit or luck or a billionaire owner, right? That idea of rags to riches is intrinsic to soccer people, which makes them angry about the way the MLS is doing. So the soccer people are fighting. On one hand, it makes perfect sense from a business owner, right? You're not going to, San Diego just forked over $500 million 2.5 years ago for San Diego FC, right? $500 million. That's before a rock is moved or a coach is hired. Well, they're not going to put over $500,000 if the next year they're not playing major league soccer, they're playing minor league soccer. So it makes perfect sense for a business perspective. But for a whole host of soccer mad people like me who don't get it, they go crazy. They also raise a good point. Because MLS is locked and has a revenue sharing deal, which is the same similar to the other four big sports, it also retards the quality of the league. That's true because you can't have one or more teams just going on a rampage and spawning money. So it's really the ultimate Moneyball league because it's the salary cap and all the structures are tamped down. So on one hand, it's great for investors, for fans with these other ideas of how soccer works. It's a very touchy subject.
I
And
think. Go ahead.
I imagine you could argue that maybe that structure is necessary in order to keep soccer around in America. Like if you had this decentralized group of owners where half of them were sick of losing money after 4 years of starting the MLS and the other half wanted to keep going, you might not have ended up at this point where you have a Don Garber that says we're quadrupling down even though we've been losing money every year for the last 6 years. And it was that sort of top-down approach that allowed the game to grow to the point it is today. That would be the counter argument.
Tyler, that makes perfect sense. When I go into my kids, listen, I get kids in 10th grade. I teach my book to them in 10th grade. They hate the fact that in MLS you can't get relegated. They come into class or the chapter complaining about it. Oh, it sucks. It sucks. I'm like, God, it sucks. This is the team you're trying to get signed for. You better not say it sucks too loudly because your coach or your freaking agent will hear you. Yeah, you're bad mouthing the own league you're going to go in. And then when I teach them, Tyler, this conversation that we just had, it's not too difficult to figure out.
Sure.
A, soccer's failed 3 times. B, you can't have some owners running around hiring, people and starting an arms race. You have to have some revenue sharing deal. We're 3 time zones. Our stadiums are 20 to 30,000 people. Okay. You cannot go relegated and play in the local parking lot. It doesn't work like that. There's no way you can bring a team up unless they have certain financial means to fly people around the country in 3 time zones. So look at the facts, realize why we're here, and understand that it's not practical yet. Many things would have to change to have any sort of promotion relegation system. And it does make perfect sense because we're talking about Americans, 3 time zones, and gridiron football rules the roost. So yeah, I agree with you. I would love promotion relegation, but you
That'd be
just
great.
got to look a little deeper and realize it's not practical.
Yeah.
So get over it and try, let some of the teams like Inter Miami, for those, there's some of the teams are pushing the envelope, and that's fine. Change the rules, up the salary cap, do some cool things with homegrown players, move the needle a little bit towards what's going over in Europe. But you're never going to be promotion relegation, but you can still get halfway there or 3/4 the way there. That's where the interesting stuff is going to happen over the next 10 years as some of the bigger teams with deeper pockets are going to try to change the league documents. And there's precedent for that to not inch it, to jog towards a European model.
Do you think that MLS, as a single organism with 30 individual parts, in the long term can become a bigger league organization, have a bigger impact on soccer? This is going to be a tough question for you to ask. Then, let's say Premier League or the European system of relegation, where it's not only is it the you know 20 plus teams at the apex of it, but then it's all like 20 teams at all 6 tiers below that, all operating independent from each other and not really a part of the same system?
Yeah, I don't think it's practical. A couple things. Me personally, I don't think the United States soccer, the MLS, whatever top, is ever going to rival Premier League because
Mm,
the Premier League is the only league that has all the eyeballs, and it's rooted in 150 years of history where soccer didn't have its ups and downs like over here. It's intrinsic to how their whole society operates. So it's a pipe dream. I'm not being negative. I'm just saying that's not what smart people are aspiring to. I don't even think it's going to overtake gridiron football in this country, but I do think it's going to be neck and neck with the other three over the next 10 to 20 years. And that's a wonderful success story in and of itself. Can American soccer in 10, 20, 30 years become perhaps the second or third largest sport market in North America? That's a much more interesting topic. But the problem that a lot of people don't talk about, and what's really serious and it's worth other podcasts, not this one, is it's not the league that's going to put America on the road to good to great. It's youth development. Because you can have the best league that you want, and if you don't have young men realizing that they want to be that guy on the stadium every night, and there's a pipeline in his region to get there, and there's money there, soccer is only going to be able to grow so much. So it's really youth development, what we're talking about. And a lot of the investors, not all of them, a lot of the MLS investors, they don't care about youth development. They're not even Americans in some case. They would
Mm.
just rather buy Europeans and play for a while. And that'll make the MLS good, but it won't make the MLS great. And it certainly won't help us with our national team like what's going on this summer. We have to pump in more money into youth development, and we've been hammering at this for decades. So there's no real elixir to fix any of that.
Let's focus it on the World Cup this summer. I'm curious from your perspective, take the same direction you want. What would mark a successful return to America for this World Cup?
Yeah, sure. So again, for listeners, recall that the World Cup is now a 48 team tournament, which is the largest it's ever been. It was purring along for every 4 cycles at 32 for many cycles, and now we're up to 48. So the United States is in a group of 4, and they need to get out of the group, which is a reasonable thing to expect, meaning they come in first or second, they're automatically through, and then there's a series of third place teams according to win-loss record that can get out. So getting out of our group is expected. Then they're going to get into the next round, okay, which would be the round of 32. And that's where we hope to win again. And we should be able to get through the round of 32 and get to the final round of 16. Remember, out of your group, it's single elimination. So the expectations for the soccer people as we get out of our group and we get out of the next round and we get into the round of 16. And this is where it gets dicey. If we don't get out of the round of 16, I mean, people will be disappointed, but it's understandable because we're good, but we're not great. If we get out of the round of 16 and go into the round of 8, round of 4, oh my God, the final, I mean, it would just be glorious. Probably not going to happen. So if we get into the final 8, it would be a magnificent and wonderful success story. If we don't get to the round of 16, there's going to be a lot of hand-wringing and a lot of complaints. So yeah, I'm not a FIFA or a world ranking expert, but I think I speak for most reasonable soccer people that we fully expect to do well this summer, but we are not fully ready to be a top 10 team. I mean, we could sneak in there with a game or two and weird things happen on a football pitch, but we're not that good yet. We're pretty good and we're up and coming and we're showing promise. And I know people saying we've been saying this for decades. I know, but I'm saying it's a little bit different now. We are really showing promise with a capital P. We're getting there. It just may not happen in 50 days here.
I remember I was 10 years old when this happened. This is World Cup 2010. Bear with me here. I remember the buzz and the excitement of us playing against, I think, Ghana in the round of 16 in 2010. It was an absolute zoo. I went to see it at a theater with my neighbor. It was just insane how fanatic people were about this game that was happening. I had no idea what was going on. And so to be able to recreate something similar this upcoming year.
Yeah. So listen, I mean, come on, for the soccer people that are already in the tent And for some of you guys, maybe Jake and you and Tyler, who are sort of outside the tent, but still in the sports world milieu and care about sports, what's there not to love about a soccer game where you have international players and teams playing a sport on beautiful fields in America and rallying local people that live in our communities? And now you see them all together. It's just that they never have a reason to get together, but they're always there and they're always falling in their own little pods. That's the thing that I like to talk about. Soccer people are all connected. The kind of nodes that exist here in Philly, the guys that I'm going to see tonight, we all have different jobs. We have our kids. We're soccer loving people. We talk about soccer. We don't care. We don't care about NBA. I don't know what happened in the NBA game last night, and neither does anybody else within reason. There's soccer people in every city that love soccer, will pay to see good soccer, that follow their own local teams. And now we are going to put on the world's biggest event. And the United States is not going to be in the Final Eight or Final Four, but it doesn't really matter because the stadiums are going to be freaking packed and people are going to complain. The soccer curmudgeons are going to complain about the ticket prices and the bullshit parking and why does it cost $200 to get on a train? That's fine, but it's going to be a glorious tournament. Hopefully, not hopefully, we will get a kick. We, meaning the soccer people, will get a kick out of this World Cup, a boost that hopefully pushes soccer a couple more percentage points up in terms of eyeballs, in terms of money, in terms of people understanding that, yeah, it's here to stay. Doesn't mean that you're going to wake up in mid-July and the world is going to change and all of a sudden, you're not going to be going to NFL games. No, but soccer is on a full field press around the country. Don't be surprised if you're going to hear more about soccer. I'm sorry for the other three sport people out there. It's coming.
I want to end there, Mark. If we look back 10 years from now and we look back at this World Cup, what will have to have happened to consider this World Cup a success? Talking about the broader landscape of soccer in the country.
Yeah, listen, if we don't make it out of I think that if we make it out of the group when we do win a couple games, it's going to be great. Okay. But it's not paramount. Okay. It's not like this is a make it or break it scenario. If we don't get out of our group, there's going to be a lot of people disappointing, but it doesn't mean that soccer is going to die.
I think
Listen,
the interesting thing with that, the people that are going to be disappointed are the people that are already in the tent of soccer.
Yeah.
Like they're
Yeah.
already happy to be a part of it. So it doesn't matter. That's irrelevant.
I agree with you. I don't think that what I think is going to be more successful is that United States will hopefully put on a great show and show once again that Americans can put on a theater and a great sporting event for the beautiful game. And the Yanks can demonstrate that they are a part of that musical group as well, that they're not playing the lead role, but they're on the stage and they play an important role in it. And there's kind of like the actor you see, hey, I want to see more of that guy. He's got some promise. And yeah, he's in a couple scenes, but he's not carrying the show. And wow, this whole production, the theater is here. And the theater will be there after everybody goes home from the theater. You can go to your MLS game. It's going to start up right after the World Cup. You're going to see soccer more, and your kid and your daughter and your son will want to go play. It's real. We are a part of the community. We are a part of the musical, and we are a part of the show. And we're not a rinky-dink actor off stage yelling from the side. We're on stage. So yeah, I agree with you. I don't think it's going to have a palpable difference one way or the other. That being said, if you really make a run into the final eight, that could help. Let's not be honest. But listen, let's have a reasonable run and let's realize that we're on. Money is being pumped into the league. You have a fully functioning league. You have youth academies that are coming up. You have kids, my kids, a couple of his peers briefly, they're signing pro contracts. They're in the building here. They're not going to college. They're playing professional at 16 or 17. Last 3 days ago, Cav Sullivan and this other guy, Malik Jokovic, who were in my English class, they're playing soccer. They're making six figures already. And if you bump up their endorsements, they're close to $1 million. That's crazy. All right. And that's not just the union. American young men in 30 peaks around the country can go to these youth academies. And if you're the best of the best of the best, and there are a couple on every team, you can sign a professional contract in your teens, bypass college, play your sport, in front of 20-some thousand people every weekend and get paid six figures. What's there to complain about? Soccer is up and coming. It's not going away, and it's going to be wonderful for us soccer people. We're just going to sit back and enjoy the ride.
Mark, American Soccer Nation, where can people find it?
Yeah, American Soccer Nation, the remarkable 150-year journey of Yanks on a Roll, is available anywhere where books are sold. There's also a little logo, American Soccer Nation, that the boys have created. It's just a logo, a sports logo, a crest that's on hats and all this paraphernalia that they're selling. So yeah, it's a positive book about where we were and where we're going.
So thanks for joining us, Mark.
Okay.
Thanks, Mark.
Thank you, guys. Cheers.
All right, Jake, are you excited for the World Cup now?
How could I not be?
How could you not be? A lot of energy about the World Cup.
Oh my goodness, Mark is an icon. I think he sits on the Mount Rushmore of Sportonomics guests that have been most excited and passionate about the thing that they're most excited and passionate about. And he got me fired up. And I also am looking at applying for going back into 10th grade just so I can sign up for that class.
Yeah, it sounds like a cool class. It sounds like a unit I hope everybody does not take for granted in 10th grade, where you get to read your teacher's book and argue about whether teams should be relegated in MLS.
Well, it seems like, I don't know much about the school that he's at, but the YSC Academy, it seems like that's probably a soccer-specific academy. And like,
yeah, maybe not their only soccer-specific lesson.
So they're able to just go in the class and debate soccer with
apparently
with their teacher. Like that's awesome.
Apparently, Jake, I wasn't quite able to nail Mark down, but I'm curious after talking to him how you see the World Cup playing a role in the success of soccer in America. It seems hard for me to believe that like it can grow any faster than it has felt like it has grown in the last 5 years, but I'm open to being wrong.
Yeah. I think the World Cup coming back now is very different than the World Cup coming here in, was it 94 or 96? 94, I think. Maybe 96. At that time, they were seeding soccer in North America, which was already a sport. Like people were already playing this thing. There just wasn't a professional ecosystem for it. Today, as they come back, I think this is FIFA, extracting or pulling out the investment that they made 30 years ago and saying, you know what, like we seeded this thing. It's a lot of people have invested it in the last 30 years. We're going to come back and we're going to reap a ton of the rewards of the growth that's happened inside of North America. I think you're right, though. I don't think that this will really have a significant impact on MLS one way or another. Mark talked about it a little bit. Like even if the United States don't do well, I think people are still going to be fascinated by the actual sport itself, and especially in the markets that are hosting matches, I think it'll do a wonderful job of getting people that normally wouldn't go to an MLS game out to those matches. And for the people that are diehard Team USA or USA men's national team fans, like those aren't the new people that they're trying to attract. Those people are already going to MLS games. They're already engaged in the team that's in their local market, and they're going to be upset. But the people that aren't that and are just interested in what is this European thing that's coming over here, this international thing that's this big event that's coming into our community, I think it's going to be a good pathway to get more people in. So overall, I think it's a relationship that can't lose. Like they're not going to do anything to negatively impact Major League Soccer or growth of the sport in North America, and anything that I do will only benefit it.
I think the interesting part about soccer fandom here, as I experience it in my own personal life, a lot of friends that I have that watch soccer regularly and are like really have turned into like diehard fans of the sport, have selected Premier League teams to be fans of, and then go to soccer bars or watch the games in the morning at home. Mm-hmm. And so they've picked teams and they're into the sport and they know all the players, and just like they are with an NFL team or a Major League Baseball team, but they've chosen the Premier League. They haven't chosen MLS. And so as I hear Mark describe it, I think I wanted this really flashy answer, which was like, if the World Cup is this huge success, that means everybody's going to have an MLS team that they're going to be rooting for in 10 years from now. And I think what he was trying to get at is the much more boring answer, is that hopefully this seeds like this next generation of kids that are interested in playing soccer at the youth level and high school, and maybe we can build up the national talent through these academy programs that have now taken off. And then eventually we have enough homegrown talent that they don't just leave when they become good to go play in these leagues that everybody's already a fan of, that we could maintain some of that talent and inspire some fandom of domestic teams rather than the interest going abroad. Because I think he's right. I think the World Cup has effectively stoked soccer fandom here in America. I just don't know if it's going to the place where the U.S. national team wants it to go, which is to the domestic teams that we have. I just don't think that league's quite there yet.
No, probably not. And it's also not a fair competition at this point. Like, we'll talk about the Premier League as an example, like 150-year head start on
Right.
Major League Soccer, or in a best case scenario, a 120-year head start on Major League Soccer. And that'd be like going to any part of North America or really any part in the world and saying, hey, starting from square one, you have to compete with all horses from Kentucky in the Kentucky Derby. It's like, that's not really fair. Like they have a 200-year history of breeding all of the best thoroughbred horses, and they're pretty darn good at it. And the same thing is true with European soccer. And the other component of it is next year, not next year, but 4 years from now, the World Cup is going to be somewhere else in the world, and it's not going to be in America again for probably another 20 or 30 years at best. So chances are it's going to be somewhere in Europe or somewhere else that has a much richer community of soccer fans, and the pendulum will just swing a little bit closer that way.
I think we already know where it is. I couldn't tell you, but I think
don't
it's
know.
like the Super Bowl where they've already planned it out.
I'm sure it's planned out very far ahead, but I'm currently not in the soccer tent. I'm standing outside trying to get in.
Well, I'm welcome to be entering.
Right. I don't even know if they're going to welcome me. I don't know. No, they seem very welcoming.
I think they'll welcome you.
Yeah,
Okay, if you want episodes like these delivered to you in written form with some of our takeaways, some editorializing on our part, make sure to subscribe to Bottom of the Ninth wherever you get your newsletters. You can just go to bottomninth.co/subscribe for free. You'll get this and then my 3 favorite sports business stories every week on Friday. We'll be back next week with another episode. Jake, thanks for joining me.
Thanks, Todd.